Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you my process for pruning back Candytuft. So let's go. Candytuft is a perennial here where I live in New Hampshire Zone 5B. It bloomed beautifully in the early spring months. It had a very nice white colored blossom to it. Now that the blooms have gone by, it's a great time for me to prune, shear, or cut back this plant. With some plants, they can tolerate a slight deadheading, but when it comes to Candytuft, it actually appreciates being cut back by at least 1/3 every year. If you don't cut back your Candytuft each year, what ends up happening is the base of it can start getting woody. Also, the plant starts to look very scraggly, and you don't want a scraggly looking plant. You want a very tight, compact looking plant. The optimal time to do it is after the blooms have gone by. What happens is seed pods form. Now, some people do like the look of the seed pods, and that's fine. But if you don't like the look of the seed pods, which most people don't, you definitely want to go ahead and cut the plant back. I did some research in terms of taking the cuttings and being able to root them. And what I found was usually it takes a long time to root those cuttings. It's probably possible because most plants you can take cuttings and root them that way. However, it's my preference to divide the plant if I want more plants of the Candytuft. And if I'm going to divide it, I'm going to wait until the late summer, early fall to do that. When it comes to pruning your Candytuft, there are a number of tools you can use. You can use scissors, hand pruners, a weed whacker, also known as a weed eater, or hand shears, be it non-electric or electric. It's really a matter of personal preference, what you feel comfortable with, and also the number of plants you have. Some people have found that when they have a large number of Candytuft, it's so much faster and easier to just cut them using the weed whacker or using electric shears. I don't have a large number of Candytuft in my yard, so I'm comfortable just using hand pruners. And I always sanitize my hand pruners before using them on different plants because I don't want to introduce any sort of disease when I move from plant to plant. Right here, you can see these are the seed pods. This plant does not have a ton of seed pods on it because it's a fairly young plant. And if all you wanted to do was remove the seed pods, you would just take the plant that has the seed pod on it and follow it down close to the base and just cut it right there. But my pruning goals for all my Candytuft plants is I want a more tighter, compact plant to be formed for next year. So I'm going to be coming in and cutting these back by at least 1/3, if not 1/2. And you can see when I lift this plant that the main part of the plant goes right here to the center. And then the rest of it is just the additional growth that's come out over time. Some people prefer the scraggly look. For example, if I had Candytuft on a rock wall, then I would probably prefer for that scraggly look because I would want it falling over my rock wall. But where I have this in a small garden bed, I would prefer to cut it back and have it tighter and more compact. So in order to cut this by about 1/3 or 1/2, I can just take a chunk like this. I have my hand pruners and I can just cut it. And you just want to make your way all the way around the plant and follow the same process. It might seem harsh, but trust me, it's better for your plant in the long run. Now, you wouldn't want to do this in the early spring months before the Candytuft has bloomed because you would be cutting off all of the flower buds on your plant. So timing is everything, and optimally, you'd be doing this right after your Candytuft has bloomed. And I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It's definitely more compact, which will give it a nice shape for next year. Here's an example of a much larger Candytuft plant. And yes, I have pruned it in the past, but it's been a number of years and it is overdue for a pruning job. And when I lift one end of it, you can see that the base of the plant is somewhere in here. And the rest of this is just the scraggly part that we're trying to avoid. In fact, this takes up such a big part of my flower bed. And I don't like that. I want a nice tight plant here. I don't want a scraggly plant that's going to be all consuming in a small flower bed. And so with a plant like this, because it's so large, I can afford to take it back even more. So I'm going to come right in here and just make my cut. Same with this section over here. I'm coming right in. I'm going to cut. There, we've really controlled the size here, and I could still come back in here and find other pieces that need a cut. But overall, I'm very pleased with how this looks. Now, let's not forget about the top part though. We went ahead and we controlled the size on the outside. We also want to make sure we're cutting back all of these seed pods. So I can just take a bunch like this and just cut. And you can do a final check through this plant, cut back any pieces. Maybe there's some dead pieces down below. Maybe there's one or two scraggly pieces that are left. And once you're pretty happy with the look of your plant, it is good to go. It's going to provide nice evergreen interest throughout the summer into the fall. And next year, when it blooms in the spring, it's going to be much happier. It's going to look much nicer. At this time, if I wanted to, I could give it some sort of a slow release fertilizer, maybe a 10-10-10, but that's optional. I already gave it a 10-10-10 slow release fertilizer in the early spring months, and that's the best time to do it, right before the plant blooms. And now I have some nice green material to add to my compost bin. What a difference pruning back your Candytuft makes. This is the one that we just worked on, and if you come this way over here, you can see that this one over here needs to be cut back. It just ends up encroaching and taking over a whole entire space, which is really unnecessary, and it's just better for the plant. It looks better if you are going for that more compact, tidy look. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please drop them down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and also hitting the notification bell. Until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.